Little black girl helps a billionaire fix his Mustang. When he sees the necklace on her neck, his life turns upside down. The sun beat down mercilessly on the cracked asphalt, heat waves dancing like ghosts above the rural Massachusetts road. A red Shelby GT 500 Mustang sat motionless on the shoulder, its hood gaping open like a wounded animal. Beside it, a white man in a designer navy suit paced, sweat darkening the fabric at his back. Miles Ashford, billionaire real estate mogul and heir to one of the most powerful corporate dynasties on the East Coast, checked his Rolex for the 5th time in 10 minutes. He was late for a closed-door meeting with the governor, and his patience was running out fast. That's when he heard it. A quiet voice, steady and curious. "Need some help, sir?" He turned and blinked. A little black girl, no older than 10, stood on the edge of the road with a beat-up backpack slung over one shoulder and grease-stained fingers gripping a small wrench. Her shirtan MIT logo tee 3 sizes too big fluttered in the breeze. Miles opened his mouth to dismiss her. Then she moved closer, and the sunlight caught the thin gold chain around her neck at the end of it, a dragon-shaped pendant with a green gemstone. And just like that, his world tilted off its axis. Miles Ashford had built his empire on precision. He hated delays, inefficiency, anything that interrupted the carefully orchestrated rhythm of his day. But on this dusty backroad, with steam rising from the hood of his prized GT 500 Mustang, he was utterly stuck. No signal, no tow, and no time, he muttered, slamming the hood shut in frustration. He turned to pace again when a voice behind him caught him off guard. "Sir, you're leaking coolant." A spun around. There she was barefoot in the grass, a 10-year-old black girl with sun-kissed braids and dirt on her knees. Her backpack looked older than she was. But she walked straight toward the Mustang with the calm confidence of a mechanic twice her age. "And how exactly would you know that?" Miles asked, more amused than annoyed. She pointed to the small greenish puddle beneath the car. "That sweet smell? That's coolant. See that hose? It's cracked." Miles blinked. She was right. "My uncle taught me," she added. "I help out at his shop on weekends." Miles watched as she opened her bag and pulled out a tiny metal case, filled with duct tape, gloves, and a flashlight. She got to work without waiting for permission. "Name's Layla. What's yours?" He hesitated, still caught off guard by her directness. "Miles." She looked up, grinned. "Nice car, Mr. Miles. Shame about your hose." Miles chuckled, despite himself. "You're not afraid of talking to strangers? Aunt Tisha says most people don't see kids like me. Especially not girls who know cars." He was about to ask more when something around her neck glinted in the sun. A necklace. Thin gold chain. And dangling from it, a dragon-shaped pendant. His breath caught. He hadn't seen that pendant in over a decade. Where did you get that?" he asked, his voice suddenly hoarse. Layla paused, confused by his change in tone. "This? It was my mom's. She passed away last year." Miles swallowed hard. Did she ever say where it came from?" Layla shrugged. "Said it was from someone who saved her. Long time ago. I wear it 'cause it reminds me to stay brave." Miles stared at the pendant. The curved emerald eye. The claw-shaped clasp. It was custom. One of only 3 ever made. And one of them had belonged to someone he lost. Someone he thought he'd never find again. And now, it was hanging around the neck of a girl fixing his car on the side of a forgotten road. Miles couldn't take his eyes off the pendant. It wasn't just the shape or the craftsmanship. It was the story behind it. Years ago, in another lifetime, he'd gifted a pendant just like that to a young woman named Camille. She was brilliant, fierce, and impossibly kind. She'd vanished one night without a word, just gone, as if the world had swallowed her whole. He'd searched. Hired people. Hit dead end. And now this? "Your mother," he said slowly, voice softening. "Was her name Camille, by any chance?" Layla's eyes flicked up to meet his. There was a hesitation, subtle, but real. I don't know her real name," she admitted. "I just called her Mom. Aunt Tisha says she didn't like talking about the past." Miles crouched down slightly, now at her level. "Where's your home, Layla?" She hesitated again, gripping the strap of her backpack. "Just down County Line Road. You take the right at the church. Big blue trailer with sunflowers out front." "Would it be all right if I drove you back?" he asked gently. "To say thank you. And, maybe to meet your aunt." Layla studied him, then nodded. "Only if you don't tell her I touched your car. She'll ground me for a week." Miles smiled. "Deal." They got into the Mustang, now coaxed back to life with Layla's makeshift patch job, and headed down the dusty road. Inside the car, the silence was thick with unspoken thoughts. "So, what do you do, Mr. Miles?" Layla asked. He paused. "I run a few companies. Mostly tech and real estate." Layla's eyes widened. "Like buildings and apps and stuff?" He chuckled. "Something like that." "What kind of stuff did my mom do?" she asked, almost too casually. Miles's grip on the wheel tightened. She was smart. Way ahead of her time. Studied astrophysics. She wanted to build things that lasted. Layla looked down at the pendant. She never talked about science. Just fixing things. She loved old radios. Broken clocks. Miles exhaled slowly. "Yeah. That sounds like her." They turned onto a gravel driveway. Sure enough, there it was, a faded blue trailer, a small garden blooming wildly with sunflowers. A woman stood on the porch, arms folded, eyes squinting at the car pulling in. Layla waved. "That's Aunt Tisha." The woman didn't wave back. Miles parked and stepped out, heart pounding harder than it had during any business deal he'd ever closed. He wasn't just visiting a stranger's home. He was walking into the past. Tisha didn't move as Miles approached her, stance firm, protective, the way someone stands when they've spent years guarding more than just a child. "You lost?" she asked, her voice low and cool. Layla hopped out of the car, smiling. "Auntie, this is Mr. Miles. He helped fix the car. Or I fixed it, but he let me." Tisha's eyes flicked from Layla to Miles. "That so?" Miles offered a handshake. "Miles Rutherford. It broke down just up the road. Your niece practically saved me." Tisha ignored the hand. "You're a stranger with a nice car, showing up out here. And now you're walking my niece to the porch? Forgive me if I'm not exactly thrilled." "I get it," Miles said, lowering his hand. "You're protective. That's good. But I was hoping to ask you something personal." Tisha crossed her arms. "You can ask." "Don't mean I'll answer." Miles hesitated. "Layla's necklace, did it come from Camille?" Tisha's expression changed in a flash. Her mouth pressed into a hard line. "What do you know about Camille?" Miles' voice softened. "Enough to recognize something I once gave her." Layla looked between them, confused. "You knew my mom?" Tisha closed her eyes for a second, then opened them with steel behind them. "Camille made a choice, Mr. Rutherford. She left that life and everything in it behind." Miles stepped closer. "Why?" "Because it nearly destroyed her," Tisha snapped. "And you showing up here, stirring things up, it's not helping." "I didn't come here to stir anything," he said, trying to steady his breath. "I just saw the necklace, and—" His voice trailed off as his eyes shifted past her, through the screen door. Inside, on a worn wooden shelf, sat a small, faded photo in a silver frame. Camille. Younger, but unmistakable. Holding a baby with wide eyes and dark curls. Miles's voice broke. "That's her. That's Camille. And that's my daughter, isn't it?" Layla froze. "Wait, what?" Tisha stepped in front of the door. "You need to leave, Mr. Rutherford." But Miles wasn't listening anymore. His past wasn't behind him. It was staring him in the face, alive, real, and wearing a necklace he'd bought over a decade ago. Miles stood frozen on the porch, his eyes still locked on the photograph behind the screen door. Layla, stunned, turned to her aunt. "What is he talking about? Mom knew him?" Tisha let out a breath that sounded like it had been held for a decade. She looked at Layla, then at Miles. People linked by a secret she had sworn never to reveal. "Come inside," she said finally. "But don't think I'm doing this for you, Mr. Rutherford. I'm doing it because she deserves to know." Inside, the house was small but warm, filled with the scent of sage and old cedar. The living room was modest crocheted pillows, framed school certificates, and more photos of Camille holding Layla at different stages of childhood. Tisha sat across from them, her hands clasped tight. "Yes," she said quietly. "Camille knew you. She loved you once. And yes, Layla is your daughter." Layla's gasp shattered the silence. "What?" Miles's voice was barely a whisper. "But she never told me." "Why?" Tisha looked at him, her eyes filled with something between grief and fury. "Because your world nearly destroyed her. After your engagement was announced to the governor's daughter, no less, Camille got threats. From your father. Your assistant. Anonymous calls. She was told to disappear. Or she'd be dealt with." "I never knew," Miles started, but Tisha cut him off. "You didn't want to know," she snapped. "You climbed your golden ladder and left everyone else in the dust. Camille couldn't compete with your empire. So she ran. She changed her name. got as far as she could. And when Layla was born, she told me never to tell you. Not because she hated you, but because she loved her daughter enough to protect her from your world. Layla sat stunned, fingers gripping the arms of the chair. So, my whole life, everything's been a lie? No, Tisha said, reaching for her niece's hand. Your life has been real. Your mother loved you with everything she had. She just thought the truth would cause more pain than silence. Miles's hands trembled. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an old photo from his wallet. A woman in a summer dress, laughing in the sun. Camille. I never stopped looking for her, he said, voice cracking. But I didn't know about Layla, I swear. Tisha looked at him, her eyes tired. Well, now you do. The question is, what are you going to do with that truth? Well, the front door slammed so hard it shook the window panes. Layla! Miles shouted, already chasing after her, but she was gone, darting down the cracked sidewalk like the world was collapsing beneath her feet. Tisha stood in the doorway, hand to her heart. Go after her. But don't chase her with guilt. Chase her with the truth. Miles didn't need telling twice. Layla's legs burned, but she didn't stop. Not when her lungs screamed, not when the tears blurred her vision. The evening sun was dipping behind the hills, painting the sky in bruised orange and purple. And still she ran through the empty lot, across the railroad tracks, past the diner where her mom once worked night shifts. The truth was a storm in her chest. He's my father? The man in the car with the suit and the watch and the life that never looked like mine? She didn't see the pothole. Her foot caught hard. She pitched forward with a cry, landing hard on the pavement. Pain shot through her knee. Her elbow scraped raw. Her vision swam. Miles arrived seconds later, breath ragged. Layla Godar, you okay? Don't touch me, she screamed, pushing herself up, staggering. But her leg buckled. She collapsed again, crying out. Miles knelt beside her, hands raised like she was a wounded animal. Let me help you. You don't get to help me, she sobbed. You're the reason she left. You let her disappear. His voice was quiet. I didn't know. If I had. But you didn't look hard enough, she shot back. You have all this money, all this power, and you let her vanish. Miles sat back on his heels, the weight of her words crashing into him. You're right. Layla froze. You're right, he repeated, eyes shining. I should have looked harder. I should never have let her go that night. And I can't take back those years. But I can be here now. For you. Silence stretched between them. Then Miles reached into his pocket and held out something small. A gold pendant. Oval. Worn by time. This was your mother's. She gave it to me when we were young. I've carried it every day since. Layla took it with shaking hands. Inside was a photo, faded, barely visible. A woman smiling. Her mother. Her younger self. And in the background, unmistakably, the same Mustang she'd fixed. The past was no longer a secret. It was sitting between them, open, raw, and ready to be rewritten. Boston rose before them in shimmering towers and flashing glass, elegant, intimidating, and utterly foreign to Layla. She had never left Dorchester County before. Now she was riding shotgun in a Mercedes AMG, her knee still bandaged, her thoughts spinning faster than the wheels beneath them. You don't have to say anything, Miles said as he pulled into the underground garage of a sleek high-rise. But if you want to understand, this is where your mom lived. Before she left. Layla turned to him, startled. What? She was here. With me. For 2 years. The elevator was silent, save for the soft jazz humming overhead. When the doors opened, it led directly into a penthouse. Marble floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Shelves of books. Photos on the wall, some corporate, some deeply personal. He gestured to a corner. Layla walked over slowly. There, tucked between 2 art books, was a framed photograph. Her mother, young, radiant, in a black cocktail dress, her hand resting on Miles's chest. They looked happy. That was the night we almost eloped. Miles said behind her. But she left the next morning. Why? He exhaled. Because I couldn't leave this world. And she couldn't stay in it. Layla's throat tightened. For years, she'd built her mother's absence into a fortress of unanswered questions. Now, brick by brick, it was crumbling. She was brilliant, Layla, Miles continued softly. She didn't just fix machinish, she fixed people. She made this place feel like home. After she left, I never let anyone back in. Layla turned toward him, eyes brimming. You know what's crazy, she whispered. I've spent so long hating you without knowing why. But now, I think I hated the part of me that wondered if you ever looked for us. Miles's voice cracked. I did. But I looked in the wrong places. I didn't know she'd hidden you so far from everything. They sat together on the couch, the city sprawling beneath them. I didn't bring you here to impress you, Miles said. I brought you here so you could see her world before it broke. So you'd know. You were never an accident. Layla looked down at the necklace she now wore again, its weight, a strange comfort. She used to whisper to me at night, Layla murmured. You're destined for more, baby. One day, you'll see. And now, sitting in a penthouse with the man who gave her mother that necklace, she finally did. But destiny wasn't enough. Truth demanded more. The next morning, Layla sat alone in Miles's study. He had left early for a board meeting. Said she could explore the place, just don't touch the locked drawer in the mahogany desk. So naturally, it was the first thing she touched. She wasn't being reckless. She was being guided. A hunch. A whisper in her bones. The drawer was locked, but her mother had taught her how to pick on using 2 hairpins and patience. She never thought she'd need that skill outside Uncle Jay's garage. Click. Inside was a single, sealed envelope. Yellowed with time. No name. Just an embossed MH on the flap. She opened it with trembling hands. To whoever finds this. If I'm gone, it wasn't an accident. Don't believe the fire report. Ask about the Horizon project. Trust no one until you find Echo 1. JT. Layla's chest tightened. JT. Her mother's initials. The fire. The one that supposedly started from faulty wiring. The one that claimed her mom's life. She reread the letter twice, then turned to the desk computer. She Googled, Horizon Project, plus, Whitestone Automotive. Nothing came up. But she wasn't looking on the open internet. She remembered Uncle Leon had once shown her how to access archived patent filings. She found one, dated 12 years ago. Filed by Jasmine Torres, co-author, Miles Hamilton. Project name, Horizon. A neural mapping system for predictive diagnostics in vehicles. But next to her mother's name, in red. Ownership revoked. Deceased. And next to Miles's. Sole patent holder. Layla's heart sank. That couldn't be right. Had her mother died? After being cut out of her own invention? She printed the page and stuffed it in her backpack. Then she opened the bottom drawer. More files. Blueprints. One with a sticky note from Jasmine. Echo 1 is almost ready. After this, we walk away. I'm tired of being silenced. Layla sat back in the leather chair, the city glowing behind her. But everything felt darker now. What if her mom hadn't just walked away from Miles? What if she'd been forced out? And what if someone made sure she never came back? The door creaked. Layla jumped only to see Miles step in, tie loosened, a coffee in hand. You okay? He asked, noticing the look on her face. Layla hid the printout in her jacket. Yeah, she said with a forced smile. Just tired. But inside, something had shifted. She wasn't just a girl trying to reconnect with a father anymore. She was the daughter of a woman who had died chasing the truth. And now it was her turn. Howen Tay. That night, Layla couldn't sleep. The letter. The patent. The revoked ownership. It all played over and over in her mind like a broken loop. She sat in her room. Miles had given her the guest suite, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a closet bigger than her entire bedroom back in Roxbury. But none of it mattered now. Her mother had built something. Something revolutionary. And someone had taken it. She needed answers. Layla logged onto her mom's old laptop, the one Aunt Renee had kept in a box of her things. It was slow, but intact. A folder labeled Echo 1 sat buried behind layers of system files. Inside were blueprints, logs, audio notes, and one contact list. One name was marked with a star. Eli Becker. Lead engineer, Horizon Project. Last known, retired, Vermont. She didn't hesitate. The next morning, she told Aunt Renee she was going to a robotics expo. Instead, she took the first bus north. The drive was long. Hours of gray trees and winding roads. But her gut told her it was worth it. Eli Becker lived in a weathered house tucked into the hills. Layla knocked. No answer. Then, a voice, a shaky, suspicious from behind the screen door. Who are you? My name is Layla, she said. My mother was Jasmine Torres. Silence. The door creaked open. Eli looked older than she expected. Thin, pale, oxygen tank by his side. But when he saw Layla, his expression changed from confusion to guilt. I thought this day would come, he whispered. Come in. They sat in a living room filled with dust and memories. Layla handed him the printout of the patent and the note from her mom. He held them like they were made of glass. She was the real genius, he said. Miles wanted full control. She said no. So he made her disappear. Layla's breath caught. You mean he fired her? Eli shook his head slowly. He set her up. Brakes failed, Layla. That was no accident. Hair vision blurred. He killed her. Eli looked down. All I know is, she came to me the week before. Said if anything happened to her, I had to protect Echo 1. But I was a coward, I did nothing. Layla stood. Her fists clenched. I'm not a coward. Eli reached for her arm. Be careful. Miles is powerful. If he suspects you know. But it was too late. Layla's phone buzzed. Unknown number, we need to talk. Now, M. Miles knew. Layla arrived at the Sterling Tower rooftop just past sunset. The sky was bleeding orange. The wind pulled at her curls as she stepped out of the elevator and found Miles already waiting, hands in his pockets, shirt sleeves rolled, as if he hadn't just sent her a message that felt like a threat. You came, he said. You knew I would, Layla replied, her voice flat. He studied her. You've been digging. And you've been lying. For a moment, neither spoke. Layla pulled the printout of the patent from her jacket. She held it up. This belonged to my mother. Echo 1. You filed it under your name 3 days after she died. Miles's jaw tightened. It was complicated. No, it wasn't. She said no. You took it. Then she's dead. The brakes, her voice broke. You did it. Didn't you? Miles looked away, his face unreadable. I didn't stop it. What? I didn't order it. But I knew. After it happened, I knew it wasn't an accident. My father made it look like she ran off. The media followed. Nobody asked questions. Layla started. Your father? Miles nodded slowly. Howard Sterling. He was still chairman then. I begged her not to walk away with the design. She didn't trust him, she was right. But I thought, if I could just convince her to stay. His voice cracked. I didn't protect her. I didn't protect you. Layla's fists were trembling. All this time, you let me believe you were the villain. I am a villain in this story, Miles said softly. But I'm not the one who cut her brakes. Layla turned to go, but he stopped her. Wait. There's something else. She paused. I tried to transfer the patent back to you. Legally. But it's locked in a holding company that answers only to my father's estate. He's planning something, another project, bigger than Echo 1. Using your mother's work. Then stop him, she snapped. I can't from the outside. But if I bring in the person who has a legal claim, the next of kin. Layla narrowed her eyes. We can trigger a shareholder audit, expose everything. You want me to help you clean this up? I want you to finish what your mom started. There was a long silence. The wind howled around them. Somewhere in the city below, a siren wailed. Layla took a breath. Then we do it my way. No secrets. No silence. Miles nodded. Deal. The Sterling Enterprises Annual Innovation Summit was supposed to be a celebration of the future. The main hall glittered with lights, polished glass, and a carefully curated audience of investors, media, and VIP guests. Howard Sterling stood at the podium, his smile smug as he spoke about legacy, vision, and the next evolution in AI transportation. No one noticed Layla at first. She slipped in through the side, her curls tied back, the emerald necklace gleaming under the soft lights. Behind her, Miles followed, wearing a dark suit and an expression that could cut steel. And today, Howard said, we present Project Helix, the culmination of decades of research, built upon the genius of Sterling minds. Layla stepped forward. Correction, she said calmly. Built on stolen work. The microphone screeched. All heads turned. Security moved, but Miles raised a hand. She's here as a guest, he said. Howard's smile vanished. What is this? Layla walked to the front, her hands steady. My name is Layla Quinn. My mother, Dr. Ayanna Quinn, was the original inventor of the Echo 1 neural architecture that powers your entire Helix program. The crowd murmured. Cameras swiveled. And this, she held up the necklace, is more than jewelry. It contains encrypted proof. Her designs. Her research. The original prototype logs. Everything. She looked at Howard. Before she died, she entrusted this to me. She knew someday, the truth would matter. Howard sneered. This is absurd. Oh. But Layla turned to the giant screen behind them and plugged in the necklace's hidden drive. One by one, the files appeared. Time-stamped schematics. Internal memos. Lab footage of Ayanna at work years before the Sterling name was ever attached. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A legal team member from the SEC stood abruptly. "We'll need to speak with you immediately, Mr. Sterling." Howard's face turned to stone. Layla turned to the audience. My mother was silenced. Her voice was buried beneath money, power, and lies. But talent has a way of surviving. And sometimes, it's passed down. She stepped back from the podium. Miles walked to her side. As Howard was escorted out, flashbulbs exploded. Reporters surged forward. Layla didn't speak another word. She didn't need to. Later that night, in a quiet rooftop garden above the chaos, Layla looked at Miles. "You asked why I wore this necklace," she said, fingers brushing the emerald. "It's not just a memory. It's a promise." He nodded, his voice quiet. "Then let's make sure it's kept." Ari. 3 years later, the Sterling name was no longer emblazoned on towering buildings. It had been replaced by something bolder. The Quinn Institute for Technological Justice. In the heart of Boston, the former corporate headquarters had been transformed into a sanctuary for gifted minds, many of them black, brown, and brilliant. Layla Quinn, now 13, walked through the sunlit atrium wearing jeans, sneakers, and the same emerald necklace. At her side was Miles Carter, no longer a CEO chasing profit, but a man funding purpose. On the wall, etched in glass, were the words of her mother: "The future doesn't belong to the powerful. It belongs to the prepared." Dr. Ayanna Quinn. Inside the lab, a 9-year-old girl adjusted a neural prototype with steady hands. Layla smiled. She saw herself there. Outside, reporters waited. Books were being written. Documentaries produced. But Layla didn't care for fame. She only cared that no child like her mother would ever be erased again. The girl who once fixed a stranger's car with borrowed tools now rebuilt systems with truth, brilliance, and a legacy all her own. And, dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.